Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Build. This is episode 1.51, and today we're going to be discussing the topic Making Connections, Lateral Thinking, and Community in Legal Tech, featuring extraordinary attorney Wu. I will explain that in a moment. So, my name is Brittany Hernandez, and I'm a lawyer, a professional no-code, developer, a legal tech educator, and the global ambassador to law schools for Gavel. So as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about this idea of making connections, lateral thinking, and community in the context of legal technology. And the reason I mention this kind of featuring extraordinary attorney Wu is this is referring to a show that I really like, that I got introduced to by my aunt, who we went to Norway together. And while we were there, she was feeling a little under the weather. So we decided to spend a little bit of time just in the hotel watching some shows. And she told me about this one called Extraordinary Attorney Wu, which is a Korean type of drama. And it's, yeah, about this attorney who is autistic. And she goes into this big law firm called Hambada. And it goes through kind of her life and her different cases that she's working on and how she approaches these different cases with her autism as part of who she is and how she approaches the world and different problems. So what I really love about this is it's a really great example also of lateral thinking and making connections between things that might seem disparate if you just look at them at first glance. So, for example, one of the ways that she goes about her cases is whenever she gets a flash of inspiration, she'll get this flash of a whale or a dolphin, and she kind of thinks about their lives and how the different facts about them, and then relates that to what she's going through in her case. So there's different examples of this throughout the different episodes, but this idea of lateral thinking is the idea that this is like horizontal versus vertical thinking, or considered divergent thinking, is defined as an approach to problem solving that strives for creative solutions rather than the most straightforward answer. So it's the idea that, sometimes it's the right approach to go directly from point A to point B, but you can get a lot of creative solutions if you go in lots of different ways and think of lots of different ways to get to the same answer. And so, a lot of the time in tech and legal tech specifically, we're always trying to look for the most efficient answer, but sometimes we need creative thinking to get to the most creative answer, and it's not always just a straightforward vertical thinking approach that we need. So I just love this example. And one of the things I really wanted to focus on is how we can arrive at conclusions and solutions if we really take a moment to think about making connections through patterns and just kind of thinking in this lateral way, as well as the importance of people and community in order to kind of accomplish our goals in this legal tech space. So let's focus a little bit first on this idea of lateral thinking and making connections through pattern recognition and connecting maybe seemingly disparate things to each other. So what I work a lot in is a tool called Gavel. And in this particular tool, we can use PDFs and we can use Word docs to kind of go through and automate these documents and then have different logic attached to each of these documents and have them output at the end. Now, there's a really powerful and useful Word add-in that helps you do this in a no-code way. So all you need to do is have an API key, link your account to your Word document, and then you're able to kind of go through and take your, text or whatever, insert any variables from your, I'm just going to stop the share for a second so that you don't see my API key. But what you can do is you can see all of your different workflows that you've been working on and interact with them directly within Word, which is super helpful because I can see all of my workflows here. I can search through them from the search bar, and then I can also input simple variables. So I can say insert all of them, I can format them, and so on. And it's one of these really important ones is the ability to show a phrase one, so adding conditional logic based on certain answers. So I can say show this paragraph when single select question is choice one, for example. And it's going to just go ahead and put that in for me, and I don't have to manually code it or know what the code is. It doesn't matter because it's just going to do it for me anyway. We can do the same thing with all of these different types, numerical calculations, date calculations, and more. So this is useful. And when you do this within this Word doc, it's super helpful because of this word add-in. There's also a PDF tagger that helps you just match up where you want things to go, and you can put in different conditions there as well. But what's fun about what you can do here is, in this particular context, we have just a plain blank document. However, a lot of the fun things that you can do in a PDF are things like designs and so on. So let's say if you wanted to create a document for, let's say, client intake or like first letter, for example, and you wanted it to look really nice and have some branding and design like this, for example, it's a little bit harder to think of how you might do this at the same time as inputting variables and having different conditional logic and things from a Gavel workflow if you're having this output at the end. So what I was thinking about is, how can I make a Word document that has different designs and still be able to input all of these different pieces? Now, of course, you can use some of the internal built Word design features. So, you're able to draw and insert shapes and, all these different things like design elements like this and colors. So that's one option if you wanted to start there. However, I got really used to and really like using Canva. So I was trying to think, because you can't download a Canva design as a Word doc specifically. So when you go to download, you can see you have PDF standard, PDF print, a PowerPoint, a video, a JPEG, PNG, SVG, and GIF. And there's a couple of other ways that you can share as well. So if we go share on social or more, you can see that there's lots of different ones you can do, sharing on socials and save it in different formats, messaging, design, and then you have some more options here. So although there are so many different options, we want to think about how we might be able to do like how we need it, which is we need it to be a docx. So with that, what I was thinking was, how can I do the design here within this particular tool, Canva, where I feel happy to kind of go through and see everything that I need and put elements where I want them to, but have that translate over into a Word doc. So I was playing around with it a little bit and realized, well, what I can do is think about the fact of what can I save it as and how can those be translated over to Word. So what I did is went through and I saved one as a JPEG or PNG. And then what you can do is insert that image into a Word document. And what you can do here is just insert a picture from file, whatever else, have it go on here. And then you just push it into the background so that you can have a text box appear on top of it. And then you can format that particular text box so that you don't have a line or a fill. So like this, for example, so now you can still type in here and still, have the same ability to change the font and so on. So it all matches together, for example. But in this way, you're able to have an image behind it and really control how that looks, where it sits, and so on. So I think that, this is a good example of how we can kind of play with how different seemingly disparate technologies, how they can work together, even if it's not immediately straightforward of how we're able to go from point A to point B to get this particular format. So we can kind of play with this idea. Also, one of the things I think about a lot is this idea of functions over labels. So for example, if we go into this workflow here, where this is called the master template, so master reference template. So I can go through as somebody who's new to the platform and just touch every button and see what it does and what it looks like. And when you have that, you kind of get this kinesthetic learning going on where you can visualize and feel what something might look like and function like when you're building in the future, which helps you build faster. So from this, you're able to see like all of these different options. And since you've touched every button and you've had a little bit of familiarity with each of these different blocks and how they work and how they interact with each other and what the limitations or the different strengths are, then you're able to create different ideas in your head of how you might be able to have these interact with each other in future workflows and projects. So that's just to say, one of the best ways to kind of demonstrate this is the difference between drop-down questions, combo box, single select, and multi-select, as well as yes, no. So with these different types, you have the differences between what their functionalities are, and some are going to be more helpful in some situations over others. So this is what a drop-down looks like. This is what a combo box looks like. This is a single select, multi-select, and then you have yes, no. So from these, you're able to see that a drop-down functions similar to a combo box, which and where a single select functions like a yes, no. However, multiple choice is the only one that allows you to have more than one. However, a combo box allows you to type in an answer that doesn't exist there. So that would be good, not only as one way you can type in your own answer, but also makes it to where you're able to have it search a little bit like a search bar, to if you have a long list of things like states or countries and things like that. However, you'd want to consider whether you want someone to be able to put something in themselves, because you might have logic attached to this particular question. So there's a lot of different kind of ways that you can learn about each of these block types by going through this process of playing with this. And this is really fundamental in the sense that if you don't understand all of what's available to you in the tool, then it's harder for you to create different workflows and fill out different templates and tag up different templates in the future, because you're not able to visualize what all is possible and build it in the most efficient way. And you can be more creative because you know what you have available as different tools. So the second part of this conversation is really around community and people. And this really comes from the idea that it's important to consider that you don't know everything, that you're able to rely on others who might be just a few steps ahead of where you are, or have already, spent time and hours or, pain trying to figure out what what you're working on now. And so what can be useful, especially in this kind of where you're using a SaaS type of platform, is they often have communities. So for example, I'm part of lots of different communities, and very invested, involved in the Gavel community, where we really strive to help each other and answer each other's questions, even if we're all lawyers and maybe even working in some of the same areas and spaces. It doesn't hurt to help each other. And there's a really great, let me see if I can find, there's a great lightning talk that we did with Trisha Duffin, and she went on this, she kind of shared her thoughts about sharing the market share, how practice sharing will lead to exponential growth, and how we don't have to kind of always think of withholding information from each other, which can be, common in these types of competitive industries, such as the law, but also in tech. But the thing is that when you think about who your target market is and what you're trying to do in your jurisdiction and where you are and so on, it can be really important to learn from others. And there's a benefit of this positive feedback loop of you sharing and helping others. And then in the future, when you get stuck, then you'll be able to have someone kind of help you. And it kind of leads to this positive feedback loop of us all helping each other in the community. So it's important to go through and make connections with people in the community, and so that you can kind of help each other. It's easy to find these types of communities no matter which platform you're using. There's usually an advertisement, they're usually free. Software has its own community. We have a huge one called No Code Founders, which has thousands of people in it. And they're ranging from Bubble to Softer to Glide to all these different tools, Airtable and Zapier, and everyone kind of can go through and ask each other questions, and everyone's really lovely and willing to share. So if you can engage in those communities, one of the ways you can do that, like I said, is to find where they are on the website. But also what you can do is go to different webinars and different sessions to see, who's there and what they're talking about, and connecting with the speakers, and making sure that you're kind of really getting involved in the community so that you have someone to back you up and that you're there to help others when you know the answer as well. So it's just a quick one for today. I just wanted to kind of go through and share a couple of thoughts about each of these points. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. So I'll just go through a few announcements. So we're going to have another episode of the Wednesday Build next week. We're almost at Christmas and holiday time, so I'll be with some family. But I will do what will be the last session of this year next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I also have new episodes, our issues of Code Word Hex out every Tuesday, along with the Tuesday Forecast, which is a free weekly newsletter. We also have Gavel certification courses at chromiumacademy.com, as well as courses in software and Airtable, Go Full Page with more to come. As I mentioned, the importance of community, we also have a community called Chromium Global with people from all over the world who are also interested in learning how to upskill. And then we also have the Gavel thought community that I mentioned as well. So thank you so much for your time and attention. We're going to see you next week, 27th of December at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to just be focusing on this idea of taking time to reflect, practical strategies for preparing for the next year. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or via email at brittany@chromium.pro. And for any inquiries relating to Gavel's law school program, you can just email me at brittany@gavel.io. So that's all for today, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.